welcome to Half the Battle, and welcome to a first on this show, as we'll be taking a look at a character that started out as a convention exclusive.
Meet the Swamp Viper. This figure wasn't released in 2003 with no original body parts. I say it wasn't released, but it was available in a very limited supply. This figure was part of Operation Anaconda, a set which was sold exclusively at the 2003 G.I.Joe convention. The set had 15 figures, 5 of which were unique. The others were 5 Swamp Vipers and 5 Black Dragon Troopers. No, I don't own the entire set, just these 2. Anyway, this is a good-looking figure, and that, my friends, is a small miracle considering what toy this guy is based on. Like I said, he had no original body parts. He's a straight repaint of a figure from the original line.
You want to see it? Well, feast your eyes on this.
The Bio Viper. What a freaking difference a paint job makes. And yes, I'll review the Bio Viper at some point in the future. Though that video will either be me screaming or laughing for 10 minutes straight. Yeah, the Swamp Viper is the perfect example of taking an awful figure and making it great.
Kudos!
There's some nice detailing, like the little cobra symbol on the shoulder and the strap on the leg. Compared to the Mega Viper, you can see the gloves have 2 colors now and they look better for it. To say nothing of the belt buckle. Overall, great figure. Though I do have to admit, due to the coloring on the waist, it kinda looks like he's wearing his underpants over his trousers.
Where this figure fails, however, is with his accessories.
They just threw in a backpack, a bunch of old, frankly ugly weapons, and called it good. I guess they had to work with what Hasbro could spare mold-wise. So, that was the convention-exclusive Swamp Viper figure. Overall, it's a great toy, but strangely, we're not done with action figures.
In an unprecedented move, Hasbro added a Swamp Viper to the regular toy line.
Meet the Swamp Viper version 2. This figure was released in 2010 with, once again, no original body parts. He was part of the Toys R Us Sting Raider set, which included a boat and a version of Copperhead. I won't talk about the vehicle here, I'll save that for the eventual Copperhead review. The toy is a straight repaint of an AVAC figure, which itself reused a number of parts.
Trust Hasbro to save as many bucks as possible.
I quite like this figure. It's got a good color scheme that would make him blend in a swamp. Something I now realize the original was lacking. The guy looks sleek and smooth. The only criticism I have involves the head. He's wearing a helmet, but it's too small. If you could take it off, which you can't by the way, the head inside would be very, very tiny. So the aesthetic only works if you don't think too much about it. Speaking of aesthetics, this second version has like nothing in common with the original. So you'd think they just reused the name, not the character. Well, we'll get more into that later, but for now, I will say the third figure they made sure did resemble the first.
Oh yes, the Swamp Viper even got a third toy made of him.
Meet the Swamp Viper, again, version 3 this time. This figure was released in 2012 with, hallelujah, all original body parts. He came with the Cobra Fang boat. I'll save that toy for the Copperhead review too, even though the Fang boat didn't actually come with Copperhead.
I don't have to be logical, I'm Belgian.
Now, the design of this toy, especially the helmet, is clearly an homage to the original convention exclusive figure. I really like this color scheme, but I knew I would, considering I made it myself years before this thing existed, out of a Mega Viper.
Hasbro is beaming rays into my mind to steal my designs.
So, it's a good homage, and it looks good. But, is it a good figure?
Oh, hell no! This thing is freaking terrible!
Why is it so terrible, you ask? Because they took away a large part of the articulation. This figure can only move at the hips, shoulders and neck. No elbow joints, no knee joints, no swiveling parts whatsoever, except the neck. Yeah, Hasbro sprung for a brand new body mold here, but I guess they wanted to cut costs somewhere, so articulation it was. In fact, most vehicle drivers from Retaliation had the same lack of movement, including the one that came with the Threadripper. I said I'll talk about this monstrosity in the summer. I guess Hasbro figured the drivers didn't matter, as kids would be enthralled by the vehicles themselves.
Then why include some half-assed drivers at all?
By the way, you can thank my Patreon supporters for footing the bill on this thing, as I never would have bought it for my own collection. And those were the toys. Now, they all look great, but the original is my favorite, while the third one could have been great if it had the same moving parts as the other figures, but as it stands, it's just the worst.
That means it's time to move on to the character, starting with the file card.
Swamp Vipers are an elite group of troops that protect the marshes of Cobra Island from invasions. They became necessary when Cobra Commander figured out the island was getting invaded all the damn time by the Joes.
Nice and meta there.
The specific Swamp Vipers that came in the set were handpicked by the commander to serve as bodyguards for his meeting with the Black Dragon, no relation to Mortal Kombat. Yeah, convention file cards tend to include part of the story of the set. The second card doesn't add anything interesting, but doesn't contradict the first one either, so they could be the same characters. Weirdly enough, the card doesn't mention anything about the vehicle the figure came with. The last version finds new and interesting ways to suck by not having a file card as such. Instead, the Retaliation one just has a small blurb on the box saying how he patrols the murky waters with his boat to protect the Cobra base.
That's really lame.
However, from looking at these cards, we can conclude that all three are supposed to be the same character, which is some nice continuity. Now, since these toys came out long after the original line, we obviously didn't see them in the original comics or cartoons. A version of the Fang Boat did show up in the Retaliation movie though, but that's about it. And that was the Swamp Viper. Some nice looking toys, with the original being the best. There wasn't that much to say about the character, except that the original, to me, seemed like the concept of Crocmaster done right. You know, Crocmaster, the guy originally tasked with guarding Cobra swamps.
And man did he suck!
What makes the Swamp Viper unique is that it's the only instance I can think of where a convention-exclusive character went on to appear in the regular toy line. And that's why I wanted to talk about him. And not because I wanted to show off some rare convention figures I had. No sir, that would be a vicious lie.
Well, I'll see you next time, everybody. And hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing.
And your bollocks did up good, you did.
In an unprecedented move, Hasbro added a Swamp Fire